Achievements and trophies were a system I really liked since they were introduced in the Xbox 360 and PS3 generations of consoles. I feel they give players the incentive to do things they wouldn't maybe normally do, or go off the beaten track and see things they wouldn't normally see. I definitely fell into the camp of feeling that a game wasn't complete until all achievements or trophies were obtained. But as I got older, achievement and trophy hunting has definitely fallen by the wayside, be that due to time constraints, with work or personal life, or even the difficulty spike in some games, where the limited time I have to sit down and enjoy a game is replaced with frustrations and makes the simple act of completing a game a bit of a slog really. Don't get me wrong, I don't believe that all achievements or trophies should be easy to obtain, but I do feel that it does take away an element of fun sometimes. Even with all that said, I do have that little niggle in my brain where I do want to collect all trophies and achievements where possible, so that's where I decided 2025 I'm going to get back into it. The question then became, what do I start with? If you've watched any of my streams, you may have heard me say that my backlog is absolutely terrible. Between all the free games you get with things like PS Plus or Games of Gold over the years, or even buying and starting a game and then getting partway in and easily distracted, a bit like a magpie when you see something shiny. Back to my previous question, what am I going to start with? Well, since I've primarily been doing Assassin's Creed in this channel, I thought I'd continue that trend. This is where I met the first slight flaw in my plan. The original Assassin's Creed on the PlayStation 3 didn't have any trophy support. Unlike the Xbox 360, which launched with achievement support off the bat, the PS3 did not. It took them until July 2008 to do this, which was about 8 months after Assassin's Creed had already launched. So what to do? I still wanted to play the Assassin's Creed franchise and collect all the trophies, but obviously that wasn't going to be the case with the first one, but I didn't want to miss it out. So for this one, I turned to my Xbox One and decided to get the 1000 gamer score instead. Now I'd actually already accomplished this feat back in 2009 on one of my accounts. Even though it has been some time, I do vaguely recall it being very monotonous, especially collecting all those flags, doing it on a warm summer day in 2009. But was it as monotonous and bad as I remember? Spoiler, yes, bloody flags. So even though I was familiar with the achievements in the game, I wanted to go with a plan. So using my memory and research, I decided to break it down to 3 different sections. I would first start with any story achievements, picking up some miscellaneous ones along the way. Once that is done, I'd move on to any combat achievements, and finally, the collection and cleanup, including all the flags and the Templars. There are 44 achievements in the original Assassin's Creed, 3 of which I've seen have been classed as missable, though I think it really only has 1. The one truly missable one is called Conversationalist. To unlock this, at certain points the modern day protagonist Desmond leaves the Animus. When he does, you can talk to somebody called Lucy. On each occasion, they'll have a conversation and they'll provide a little bit of backstory on what's happening in the modern day. You can usually talk to her 2 or 3 times before she'll say something about you've been tired and tell you to go to bed. At that point you know it's been ticked off for the day and don't have to worry about it. There's something I definitely didn't want to miss, because if you do miss one, you'll have to start the game from the beginning and play most of it again, which is really just a bit of a waste of time. The first of 2 potentially missable achievements is Hunger of Knowledge. Throughout the game, certain cutscenes will have glitches, which, if you press any button on the controller, it changes the view to a more cinematic view. After witnessing enough of these, the achievement unlocks. Now I believe this to be a missable achievement, but from what I've read since, if you get to the end of the game and you've not unlocked it, you can just play some missions again and it should unlock eventually. I didn't want to take a chance on this though, so I made sure to definitely get it so I didn't have to do another playthrough. Now the second potentially missable achievement is a bit of a confusing one. From what I understand, the Disciple of the Creed achievement was designed initially to be missable. It states it requires the player to complete all side missions before going after the target, as well as all the citizen help and high points. You'll know that this has been done when the DNA thing that pops up only has 2 blank spaces on it before going after your main target. But there have been people reporting that they've done the bare minimum before going after the target and it still unlocks for them. This is a risk I didn't want to take though, and to save myself again not having to do a second playthrough. Anyway, let's get going. The game introduces the modern day protagonist Desmond Miles, who's been kidnapped by a pharmaceutical company called Abstergo. Desmond is hooked up to a machine called the Animus to relive the memories of one of his ancestors from the Third Crusade called Altair, who just happens to be an assassin. After a brief tutorial on how to control Altair and some of the gameplay mechanics, the first achievement is unlocked, Welcome to the Animus. We eventually join Altair, who's on a mission with a couple of fellow assassins to steal an artifact to keep out of their enemies' hands, the Templars. Due to Altair being pretty brash and quite frankly a bit cocky, the mission goes wrong, and he has to return back to the Assassin's Keep in Masyaf empty-handed. After being berated by his mentor Amolim, it's been discovered that the mission wasn't a complete failure, as one of the accompanying assassins had managed to retrieve the artefact. Masyaf is then attacked by Robert de Sade, the Templar met in the previously failed mission. Altair is instructed to help defend the village from the attackers, which he manages to do by sneaking behind them and releasing a log trap that has already been set up. Doing this unlocks the Hero Masyaf achievement. After the dust is settled, Altair is punished for his actions and demoted to be a novice in the Brotherhood, where he has to earn his way back up the ranks. His first task is to find a traitor Masyaf who assisted the attack in the village. This serves as another tutorial, which takes the player through each of the main mission types you'll be playing in the game: eavesdropping, pickpocketing, and interrogation, or more precisely, beat the information out of the target. We'll get very familiar with these missions, as it'll be mainly what you'll be doing in the majority of the game. Once the traitor's been found and brought in front of Amalim, who delivers swift justice to them, the achievement, the punishment for treason, is unlocked. This is where the main part of the game starts. Altair is tasked with taking out 9 targets to restore order in the Holy Land. The first target takes us to Damascus to take out a black markets armed merchant called Tamir. Now, I'll only cover this next bit once, as going after each target follows the same repetitive build up to which, boy, that gets very boring. When Altair reaches the location of a target, he first has to go out to the local assassin bureau and speak to the handler who is stationed there. They give you a little information before sending Altair out to piece together the rest on how to approach the target. Altair then painstakingly completes the 3 aforementioned mission types from Masyaf, as well as another involving tasks to help fellow assassins, which are split into either taking out a number of targets without being seen, or collect a certain number of flies within a certain amount of time. On top of these, there are also the reach high points, which are necessary for uncovering the locations of the side missions on the map. You also find citizens who are being harassed by guards, which, when saving them, they unlock either a group of scholars, which can be used to blend with, or a group of people who will hold guards back if they're in the process of chasing you or they are attacking you. As I said in the Missable section, I wasn't sure if all these had to be done from what I read for the Disciple of the Creed achievement, but that information came at your own risk warning, so I decided I didn't feel brave enough to take the risk and potentially have to play through the game again from the beginning. Once all the missions are done, or at least a certain number of them, Altair must go back to the bureau to relay the found information to the handler, who gives the blessing to go after the target. Once the target is taken down, Altair goes back to the bureau once more before returning to Al-Mulim to regain a rank and a piece of equipment and or ability. Anyway, back to our current target, Tamir. Tamir is found in a square where he is having a squabble with another man. Safe to say, the other man loses the argument, which leaves Tamir open to Altair's attack. This assassination was a perfect chance to obtain another achievement called Blading the Crowd, which is achieved for taking out a main target without them realising. Along with this also came the achievement The Blood of a Corrupt Merchant for taking out Tamir. The next memory block offers up 2 potential targets: Talal, a slave trader in Jerusalem, and Garnier de Naplouse, a doctor who has been experimenting on his patients in Akkar. I decided to travel to Jerusalem first, and while collecting information on the target, I unlocked my first combat achievement, Eagle's Will, for being undefeated in over 100 battles. I then went after Talal, who'd set a trap for Altair. After taking out his cronies and chasing down the coward, I was awarded the blood of a slave trader. With Talal out the way, I travelled to Akkar, where it wasn't long before unlocking the next combat-related achievement, Eagle's Talon, for taking out 50 people without them being alerted. We then found Garnier and his guards capturing a patient who'd been trying to escape and making sure he wouldn't be able to do that again, or even walk again. After infiltrating the hospital, we ensured Garnier won't be doing this to any further patients and unlocked the blood of a doctor. Back in Akkar, to take out the liege lord William of Montferrat, a crusading army of King Richard, I quickly unlocked the next 2 combat achievements in the same encounter: Eagle's Swiftness, which I'm sure was taking out over 100 people with counters, and Eagle's Dive, which was finishing with combo attacks. At this point, I had also jumped into a pile of hay from a high point over 50 times and unlocked Eagle's Dance. When we first see William, he is having a heated discussion with King Richard himself. Once Richard leaves, William locks himself in a keep, but that won't keep Altair out. After scaling the walls and taking out anyone in our way, I couldn't get the bloody air takedown to work and entered into battle with a lot of guards, which got a bit hairy. After some close shaves, I was able to take out the one called William and earned the blood of a liege lord. Now back to Jerusalem for the second time for Majad ad-Din, the regent of the area. In the information gathering section, I continued my streak of unlocking at least one combat achievement called Eagle's Prey, and this time it was for using the hidden blade on over 100 people. When we catch up with Majad, he is overseeing the execution of some prisoners, including a member of the Brotherhood. I did attempt to be stealthy by climbing up one of the surrounding buildings, but it turned out I was at the opposite side of the stage he was on. Because I couldn't be bothered waiting, and didn't really want him to make his way down the prisoners, I just jumped down there and took on all comers. I eventually dealt with the target and unlocked the blood of a regent. Back in Damascus, to track down the interesting merchant king Abul Naqad, the streak was finally broken for unlocking combat related achievements, and it was just a bog standard slog of info gathering. Once all this was done, Altair decides to crash a party Abul is hosting, but it's definitely not a guest list you want to be on, as he was poisoned the wine to take care of all the people leeching off him. After having to chase him, he is surprisingly fast for his physique, and taking care of him, the achievement, the Blood of the Merchant King, was unlocked. I now reached the point where I only had to visit each location once more for story purposes. The first choice was Akar, and just completing all possible high points and citizen rescues up to that point, I unlocked Absolute Symbiosis, fulfilling the synchronization bar. For completing all citizen rescues in Akar, I also unlocked Defender of the People, Akar. The reason for visiting Akar this time was to take out a Teutonic leader, Sibrand. He is found at the local docks, and you can tell he is really paranoid due to all the people being taken out by Altair so far. Sibrand retreated to his ship, and this section caused so much frustration. Altair can climb the tallest buildings and take on full armies by himself, but apparently he has never been taught how to swim, so even touching the water causes a fail state. This becomes problematic, with Altair wanting to jump in random directions at times and right into the water. He then respawns back on shore, and you have to start the process of precise jumps and pulls from the beginning again. After the big scary water is navigated and you reach the brand, teaching him a lesson for making you have to go through this section, I unlock the Blood of a Teutonic Leader. Next, it's time to travel to Damascus for the last time and save the last citizens for Defender of the People, Damascus. The target here is Jaber, a scribe who is trying to burn and destroy all literature which goes against his beliefs. After witnessing him initially doing this, multiple possible locations are shown on a map where he may be located. I went through each one, not being the correct location until one was left. I made my way to that location, and I am not entirely sure what happened, but the game seemed to hit a fail state and all locations were on the map again. Luckily I remembered why I needed to go, so I was able to go to location first and take out Javert for the Blood of a Scribe. Now it's time to travel to Jerusalem and confront the final target, our old friend Robert de Sable. Just like the other two cities, I saved the last of the citizens for Defender of the People, Jerusalem, and then went after Robert, who was attending a funeral for one of our previous targets. Turns out that the funeral was a trap, as he knew Altair would come, and a massive fight broke out. Now I don't remember having issues with the combat in this game in the past, or even during most of this playthrough, but the fight took me a lot longer than I care to admit. Eventually, after a number of attempts, I finally took down Robert, but it wasn't even Robert at all, but a woman called Maria, who had been put in place to draw Altair in, while Robert actually went off to gather forces to against the assassins. Since Maria is not Altair's intended target, he shows the growth that he's gained throughout the game and spares her, before rushing off to try and catch up with Robert. As disappointing as it was that we didn't take down Robert, not always lost, as this is where one of the quote-unquote missable achievements was unlocked during the conversation with Maria, Hungerer of Knowledge. Chasing after Robert, Altair encounters wave after wave of enemies in his way that he has to take care of. In the process of doing this, I unlocked Eagle's Challenge, which was for taking on 25 enemies in a single fight. Altair finally catches up to Robert in the camp of King Richard. While trying to convince Richard of Robert's betrayal, it is decided that the only way to resolve this is in combat, with God favouring the one telling the truth. Now this fight isn't exactly fair, as some of the surrounding guards decide to join in, but on taking them and Robert down, I earned the maybe missable achievement of Disciple of the Creed, and, for finally dealing with Robert, the blood of a nemesis. At this point, Desmond has pulled out the Animus, and this is the last time I need to speak with Lucy for the one achievement that is truly missable, Conversationalist. To my relief, the achievement unlocks, and I can breathe a sigh of relief. Back in the Animus, during the final conversation with Robert, it was revealed that Amolim was behind everything that is happening, and he has betrayed both the Assassins and Templars just so he can keep the artifact from the beginning, the Apple of Eden, to himself. Altair travels back to Masyaf to confront Amolim, who is using the power of the apple to control citizens of the village, and ordering fellow assassins to attack Altair. Once face to face with Amolim, the final fight is on. Again, not a fight I remember being difficult previously, but as I eventually clocked on after failing too many times, if you don't hit him while in a certain state, you can be taken down in a single shot. Once this is figured out, I finally defeated Amolim. Back in the modern day, Desmond can see drawings on the floors and walls with abilities similar to Altair's Eagle Vision. When looking at the drawings above Desmond's bed, the achievement The Eagle and the Apple 1191 is unlocked for completing the game, and Visions of the Future unlocks after sitting through the credits. Now that the story is out of the way and 29 achievements have been unlocked, it was time to start the cleanup process, first focusing on combat related achievements. There are only a couple I was focusing on here, as even though taking out the Templars could be classed as combat, I wanted to tackle them while going around collecting flags. The first one I went after was Eagle's Flight, which requires me to survive open combat for 10 minutes. There were a couple of options I had when approaching this, but no matter what, they were going to be monotonous. The way I decided to choose this was a suggestion I'd seen online. I found a group of the vigilantes who I had unlocked after I saved a citizen, I got a guard to run by them, and waited. couple of times the guard did get close enough to take a swing at me, and they were dragged around, but nothing to worry about, except for a brief moment the indicator turned from red to yellow, which worried me that it would reset the timer, but thankfully did not, and the achievement eventually unlocked. I grouped the next two achievements together, as they pretty much go hand in hand. For those, Altair had to get his throwing arm going and become a master marksman with throwing knives. Doing this definitely made Altair feel like a badass, as there were one-hit takedowns, and after 75 guards had fallen, I unlocked Eagle's Eye. The second achievement here feeds into the process of replenishing the used throwing knives. Altair can only hold 15 knives, so more needs to be gathered from somewhere. This somewhere, or more precisely, someone, is the guards wandering around with brown pouches on our back. Altair needs to pickpocket these men to gain more knives to be flung at unsuspecting targets. Now the next achievement needs us to pickpocket 200 knives for the Hands of a Thief achievement. There seems to be a misconception with this one, that once Altair is full of knives, that the currently held ones need to be thrown before more can be pickpocketed due to a message on screen saying that they are full. This is not correct though, and if you just keep trying to pickpocket the knives, the achievement will eventually unlock. With a time consuming and monotonous task, this should be the tagline of the game, but did it with little issue other than the handful of times the person I was stealing the knives from spotted me in the act and either tried to fight me or call the guards on me. The three miscellaneous achievements I wanted to focus on in this section didn't take long to complete. First I had to jump through a merchant stand 20 times. This could be done in the same stand thankfully, and I eventually unlocked Gifted Escapist. I then had to jump in and out of a group of scholars a number of times. Again, the same group counted, and not before long I unlocked March of the Pious. The last miscellaneous achievement made me feel slightly bad, but not really. While wandering around the streets of the cities, in certain areas there are female beggars who will get in your face and not leave you alone for an annoying amount of time. This is frustrating at the best of times, but it's occasions when trying to complete a mission and not get caught and they just make this so awkward, but now it was time to get my own back. The achievement required Altair to grab and throw 25 of these beggars out of the way. Once done, Enemy of the Poor is unlocked. Now that everything else is out of the way, it's time to deal with the part of the game I was dreading, all the collectibles. In typical Ubisoft fashion, they have gone a little over the top with 420 flags and 60 Templars being spread across the maps. During general gameplay, I had only collected a couple of flags so far, one because I had to climb up a massive building for a high point, I didn't want to have to do it again. The fun with all the collectibles in the game is that there's no way to track them on the map. When picked up, it will display how many you have in that area, but that is all. Since I was all too well aware of this from previous experience, I made sure to use an interactive map online to keep track of what I collected, and so the slog began. I first travelled to Akar to start the collectathon, and this is the only city where the achievements for the flags are split up by district for some reason. After a once over Akar, all the flags were picked up for the Keeper of the Order, Keeper of the Eight Virtues, and Keeper of the Black Cross achievements. Damascus was next, and again, other than the time it took, I found all flags relatively easy for the Keeper of the Crescent achievement. I then remembered that there were flags in Masyaf, and only 20 of them, so quickly gathered these up and unlocked Keeper of the Creed. I should have known that things were going too smoothly at that point though, as Jerusalem is where the collecting went a bit south. I followed the guide and collected the flags in the first two districts with no issue, and then I got to the end of the final district, and instead of the achievement unlocking, my heart sank as I only had 99 out of the 100 available flags. I had no clue what went wrong, as I was sure I'd followed the guide as close as I could. Had it glitched, as I know that was a potential from what I'd read online? I tried to retrace my steps in the hopes that I was nearby, but was having no luck. At this point, it was late and I had gone pretty frustrated and began to question if the video had fallen apart so close to the end. Did I have it in me to restart the game and collect the flags again if it had glitched? Is it worth continuing this for the video? After taking a moment, I decided I was going to come back to this and try and get all the rest of the collectibles in the Kingdom area. Kingdom is massive and was probably the most grindy of the collectible areas. This was compounded due to the number of flags being in the confined area, so the interactive map I was using was a little hard to read due to the markers being clumped together. It was also really frustrating due to how many guards are in the area and how they attack more or less on sight, so it makes things more difficult than they need to be, especially when trying to climb a high point and they are throwing rocks to knock Altair down. Speaking of the high points, I climbed the last of them in the game here and eventually unlocked Fearless. The next to be ticked off with 100 flags in the area, and I got Keeper of the Lion's Passant achievement. The last thing to do in the area was to take down the last of the Templars, who are essentially harder guards. Once the last one fell, Personal Vendetta was unlocked. That should have been the last achievement, but of course I had to find that last flag in Jerusalem. I decided to start from the beginning with the help of a YouTube video and made my way throughout the area. As I was getting closer to the last one in the video, hope was starting to slip away. There was until I reached a random rooftop, and there it was. Relief set in, and after taking out a pesky guard on the same rooftop, I picked the flag up and unlocked the last achievement of the original Assassin's Creed, Keeper of the Four Gospels. So there we go, all 44 achievements in the original Assassin's Creed unlocked. Would I say this was an enjoyable experience to collect all the achievements? Probably not, mainly due to the collectibles, but overall it wasn't the hardest, just a bit time consuming. I think it's safe to say that the original Assassin's Creed probably hasn't aged the best when compared to some of the later games, but it is still an important game since it did start the franchise after all. Thank you for watching, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and put in the comments below any games you might want to see me platinum in the future, or any challenges you might want to see me undertake. I've also started a second channel called Batdrew162 Plays, where I'll be uploading mostly unedited video game footage. So I'll be uploading footage I captured during the Assassin's Creed achievement playthrough, so it'd be great if you could go across and give that a sub. Catch you in the next video.